guest is dedicated to the aspiring writer and artist and will provide inspiration and tips from top professionals in the field. This week's guest is Max Cavun. She is an aspiring game producer driven first by intellectual curiosity and then her love for gaming. Through her experiences of taking part in all kinds of game design communities in 4 different schools, she has worked in various different environments and cultures that required collaboration. She has brought her ambitions into USC Games, where she will be working on larger collaborative projects in a more professional and connected environment. I met her as the winner in the Illustrators of the Future contest, published in volume 36, as a winner from Turkey. Welcome, Max.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to be able to have you. I really wanted to be able to have you on this podcast since first meeting you in person at the Rise of Future Awards Week. So this is great. We're finally getting together now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess, first of all, tell me a little bit about your curve, because this is obviously it's the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast, and this is for aspiring artists in this case, who I think your personal story and your journey coming from a country in Turkey which doesn't celebrate the arts and still making it to achieve your dream. Tell me a bit about your journey and what you've gone through and the support from your family to achieving that.
Okay, so, as you all know, I come from Turkey. And in my country, okay, obviously people do not celebrate the arts. They mostly do not care about the arts. And the art education and resources, even in terms of, art supplies, is very limited. And even if you can find the supplies or resources, they're very expensive. So you would either have to be rich, like super rich, and like be in a, well area, or you would get nothing essentially. And that's what I had. My parents were doctors, but like the situation in Turkey is different. So even though they were doctors, we were not rich. We were not in a well area. We didn't have the resources. So all I had was, internet, a pen and a paper, and whatever I could find essentially. But like the single privilege I had was my family. They were very supportive. They told me I could do whatever I want. They didn't tell me to, pursue, engineering or being a doctor like the other families did, which was like really honestly helpful. But like that was the only thing I had, which is like part of the reason why I want to make the other artists out there aware that, you can do it. And like all you need is just a single person that supports you. Because essentially, when you start as an artist, there are lots of ways to become an artist. There are lots of materials you can use. They don't have to be, expensive. They don't have to be actual art supplies that those art shops sell. With my case, I used whatever I could find. And in school, I obviously didn't have an art education because, we didn't have any art education. We didn't have electives. We didn't have anything. It was just math, sciences, and all that stuff. So I had to, draw and illustrate and do all my art passion stuff besides the traditional school environment, which led me to have little to no free time at all because, it was art when I was outside of school, and it was, schoolwork when I was in school. And yeah, it was just me trying to do my best, being passionate because I had someone by my side saying that I could do whatever I wanted to. And because they believed in me, I could keep on going. And my work paid off with Illustrators of the Future, and now USC, my dream program. So I'm telling you guys that all of you can also achieve this.
That's great. So now I'm fascinated with how you've made it to where you are right now, starting with what it seems like virtually nothing. So what is it like? Did you first start find newspaper and a pencil and you started just writing in the back, scrapping on the back of the newspaper? Or how did you actually get started with your art in the first place? What was the first remembrance you've got of actually doing art, creating?
Well, my first memory that was special to me, in terms of art, was when I was 4 years old, which is probably the earliest memory I can remember. I was drawing a dog, I was doodling on a piece of paper like most children do. And then I remember thinking to myself, this is not an actual, this is not how a dog looks like for some reason. And then I kept thinking about, how its form was, how its nose looked and all that stuff. I wasn't doing anything, I was 4 years old. I was just, looking at a dog and trying to draw what I observed. And then my parents saw my drawing and they were very impressed. And then like I don't remember my parents being that impressed about anything else. So I liked that a lot, and because I liked their like responses, I just kept on drawing. And like I had a random piece of paper and random pen I had, because all my family members, not there's no one in my family that does art. Like it's all engineers, doctors, and that kind of profession. So they wouldn't have any kind of art supplies at home. But after that, after they started supporting me, and like because I liked doing it, they tried to buy me whatever they could in terms of art supplies. But yeah, I started with just a piece of paper and a random pencil I found around.
That's great. And then what type of art supplies did you first start with? Starting with, because I'm anticipating that some people listening to this thing are in a similar situation, like maybe not the same exactly as yourself, but the poor starving artist is a common adage, but it's really true, And so, what were some of the things that you did that you were able to then grow with some of those inexpensive art supplies? What worked for you?
I honestly tried everything. Like if I could buy it, I bought it and I tried it. Like everything, I tried everything from graphic and graphite pencils to like ballpoint pencils to like anything. If it could draw, if it could leave a mark, I tried it. I even painted with coffee at some point. Like if it can leave a mark, you can essentially do something about it. And like there are lots of very cool artists that only use coffee, for example. It's just regular coffee you can buy from like a Walmart at like for $2. So yeah.
Okay, good. So, because some people get into, they need to have all this amazing art supplies and be able to do art, and so they feel they need to have all this stuff before they can actually do art. And you're actually just the opposite. You didn't have a bunch of stuff. It was like, for you, it seems like being an artist is paramount in your life, and that's what overrides everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Like one thing that I live by is, it's not a matter of like if you can or can't. It's a matter of how can you do it. You shouldn't tell yourself that I can't do it. You should ask yourself, how can I do it? Because maybe you think you need all these supplies, and maybe for your specific profession, maybe let's say you do. Then you say like, then how can I afford these supplies? Then you find other ways to afford those supplies. Then you start cheap. Then you move your way up. Like there's always a way.
That's great. Now, as you say, coming from Turkey, how did you maintain your drive to create art in an environment which doesn't acknowledge or recognize and quite possibly suppresses art?
This is an interesting question. Like my favorite professor, like not professor, my favorite teacher in high school in Turkey was an American teacher actually. He was the one who wrote me a recommendation letter, and that was like one of his favorite, one of my favorite sentences in his letter, who said, if you could hold on to your dreams in a country that tries everything to get rid of them, I believe that you will achieve all of your dreams. Yeah, that's true. I don't know how, but like I just had the passion, I had the drive, I had my family. Like just a single person is enough. If you like something enough, you will keep doing it, or you can keep doing it.
Yeah, after the awards event, I saw how proud your father was of you. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now, you started off with basic, simple illustration, and obviously your art style is different than. I mean, it's from Turkey, so you're going to be influenced by the history of Turkey. How do you feel like that's influenced you? How do you feel it's influencing you now in what you're doing?
Well, first of all, I've realized since studying here that some aesthetic things, or like some beautiful things, are not really common here, and not just in terms of style and what people think it's beautiful, but because people are not accustomed to it, or like because people haven't seen it, they don't know it exists. So because I lived here and also in Turkey, I started noticing these small things that would also be considered pretty here, like aesthetic and like stuff people would like to see. That's like part of the reason I started working on the illustrations for Cats of Istanbul, because Istanbul is a great city and like there are lots of pretty things, but it's not really like the vibes and the environment. That's not really a thing here. Here is also beautiful. There is also beautiful, but they're different.
Mm-hmm.
My experience and growing up there was just me seeing the differences and the beauty in the differences.
I think it's something is also that is very real with artists in general, just your very nature of how you look at life. You look at the beauty in it, at least based upon the art that you draw. You're not into the dystopian view of the world. You're into more of seeing the beauty in it, which is great.
Yeah.
So, so you went from drawing your dog and realizing that it didn't look like a dog, and there's different things you had to do on it. So then, what happened from there?
What happened from there? I
Your art, as you grew your art skills.
As I grew my art skills, I realized that it was not. It was more. It had more to do with your vision and your logic, which sounds odd, and I'm not sure how to explain it, but like I figured it was more connected with logic, and then I kept doing my drawings first on a logical basis. Like in my mind, I would try to figure out how I would place things, how like what materials I would use to achieve the effects I wanted, and like just thinking stuff. I did the thinking. It was like 60% of the work, and then like 40% was actually hands-on, which I'm pretty sure like all the artists do to some extent. They're probably sometimes not even aware, but the imagination, that's like the thinking part essentially. And yeah, I did mostly thinking, try to use whatever I could, and if people are interested, or like if there were any opportunities, I tried to hold on to those opportunities to get more.
I get it. So where you're trying to illustrate a dog the way a dog looks, but then meaning looking at life the way it looks, to where you change around to like how you see it, which isn't necessarily like a photograph. It's like how Max sees it. How did that transition happen?
Oh, I guess that just happens with practice as you get to know yourself better. It's like, how people say you discover yourself in your 20s and you're such a different person when you're older and stuff. Like it's the same with art. When you practice it, you will, or your art style will change, and you will start to see things differently, or you will choose to see things differently, or like interpret things differently. It's just experience and, life.
I get it. All right. So now, okay, so you were doing your art and your illustration. So at this point, we're talking about like, your dog and you were, that's my round reference here. It was elementary school. So then you moved through, I'm not sure how education gradients work in Turkey, but then middle school and upper school or high school. How did it evolve then from illustration to other forms of art while you were still in Turkey? What were some of the things that you ended up doing there?
So I used to draw on the desks a lot with, with the pencils I was supposed to be like solving multi-choice questions with, because Turkey education system only has, you solve math problems and that kind of stuff. So I would use my school supplies to draw on desks, or like on books and stuff. And a lot of the teachers would get angry with me, but because I kept on just doing it, and like my parents were supportive, like that could have gone very wrong, but every time I got into trouble for drawing in class, they were like, okay, that's fine, because I knew if I also, studied, and if my grades were good, that really didn't matter if I drew on desks and stuff. At least that was my way of thinking when I was in middle school, because I just wanted to keep on drawing. But I could see, I mean, it's not really important. Grades are not important, but I could see why some people, parents would, have a problem with it. I didn't want to deal with that. So I kept my grades good, and I kept drawing in class. So every time I got into trouble, my parents would back me up, and like it would, it would be okay. So after a while, my parents took me to see a professor in an arts college. They were there to ask for advice, what we should do, because this is what she draws and all that stuff. And the art professor said, don't do anything. Just try to get her as much supplies as possible. Do not let her get any of those, courses our teachers teach in Turkey, because that will limit her creativity. And so my parents never sent me to those courses, which I'm very grateful for, because there were like some courses, but they were not great. They were accustomed to the Turkish education system, which, as you know, is not really good with arts. So that was just, like math, but like arts, like that was something else. Anyways, yeah. So I just grew up doing my own thing with my parents backing me up. And because that professor told them to help me in whatever way they could in terms of supplies, whenever I saw something I was interested in, let's say watercolor, they would try to get me watercolor so that I could try it out. And then I kept on trying and experimenting with everything I could until I liked, whatever I was doing the best. And then I went from there.
I get it. So at what point did it become a possibility for you to go to college, to go to school in the United States?
So I was born in the United States. So I had a citizenship, and like I always wanted to study here, starting from first grade. Like I always knew I wanted to study here. My parents obviously didn't want to send their only daughter to college in another country, as well as my other family members. But since that was the only thing I would talk about ever since I was a kid, they kind of had to, go along with it. But they were supportive in the end. And I'm spending all this time doing art, like all the other artists. Like I'm giving away my time to practice, to draw, and all these stuff that are sometimes, actually in most cases, not supported. So I have all this work I have with me. So why can I not use it for, getting scholarships or being accepted to colleges? And I, being accustomed to using any opportunity I could have, I looked it up, I researched, and my parents obviously cannot afford to pay for college here. I'm not paying any money for USC because we don't have the resources. So I just researched. I had the dreams. Yeah, as long as you have the dreams, like you research, you find possible opportunities. If there are none, you create your opportunities, and that's what I did.
Oh, that's great. So, like I read in your introduction here, you're working in various, you've got these various environments and cultures. You said that, how does that play? Because you've got the culture of, I guess it's Turkey and in the United States, or any other cultures that intertwine with you?
Well, first of all, Turkey, yes. Then I studied in Rize for a year, Rhode Island School of Design. I first went to college there, and then I
Heard that
transferred to
again?
USC, Rize, Rhode Island School of Design. Yeah, so that was like my first year. Then I went to USC. But before that, I went to summer camps in Ringling College of Art and Design and Michigan State University. So in all of these environments, I worked on creative projects, and it was like eye-opening for me because all the people I met and like the differences they had, even in like game development, which is a very specific thing, they would have so many different ways of doing things. And my experience of transferring and going to those places to study for a few months, that helped me a lot in terms of seeing different perspectives combined with my background of Turkey. Yeah, so that helped me honestly every day.
Well, that's great. So you are now at USC, which for anybody who doesn't know is University of Southern California, located here in Los Angeles, California. So you commented at the beginning that you like working with others, you like collaborations. How did that evolve?
So USC is, for game design right now, for many years honestly, is the #1 game design school in the world. And the people here for game design are absolutely incredible, and they're always working on projects. There are projects all the time, and you could be part of any of them. There is a recruitment process and everything, but you apply, and like based on your skills, you can get a job. You can start working in these projects. So I saw one of these projects, and first of all, I didn't really think I would be working in these in my first semester because it's my first semester. I'm trying to get make friends, regular college experiences. But one of them stood out, and I ended up reaching out saying, "Hey, I don't have much experience, but I would love to learn from you guys," because they were all seniors or like graduate students working on this huge project. And I ended up starting as a level designer for that project after they saw my portfolio. And after a few months, I realized that because of my background experience with all the art stuff, like, everything that led me to, winning Illustrators of the Future, that helped me a lot. Like I saw that the artist team, for example, in my project right now, is a team of 40 people. We have 11 artists. And I saw some problems in terms of, how great our artists were, but like they were not working in their full potential. So after that, after my level design experiences and getting accustomed to the project, I talked with the director about all this, my experience and what I was saying and all that stuff, which led me to me working as an art producer lead. So right now I work for Dreamland Confectionery. It's the largest game project in USC Games right now, and it's I'm leading 11 artists. I'm managing their tasks and all those stuff, and they're doing amazing work, which is thanks to Illustrators of the Future. Because after that workshop I had with them, I realized like how much I love working with the artists. I love my art background. I love doing art still, but I love it even more when other artists live up to their full potentials, because they have so much to offer. And like, if I can make that happen, that would be, good for everyone. And I like that.
Well, that's great. So you mentioned the workshop. So briefly describe what the workshop was like for you.
Workshop for me was more about networking and seeing and like meeting people, because I care about people a lot. That's part of my job. And meeting all these illustrators and they're like seeing their amazing work, that was very inspiring for me. I mean, besides all the industry experience and knowledge these people presented us with, because that's like honestly a huge help. Because technical stuff you can learn online, but industry experience, like all their stories, you cannot learn that from anywhere else. Only people can tell you that. Yeah. So I mean that besides that was a huge thing. Also the other people, like other illustrators, and it was in person too, so that helps a lot more. Seeing them in person, experiencing it, it had a different vibe. It was a beautiful experience.
That's great. Any particular of the sessions at the workshop that you got more out of than others, or that you remember better, like either with Echo Chernick, who's the coordinating judge, or Dan Dos Santos, or I mean, you would have gone through several of our judges speaking to you.
Not exactly. It was not exactly a session for when they were speaking, but in one of the live figure drawing sessions, I got to see how, like, including the judges, how they worked, and it was very different for a lot of different artists. Like their progress, the way they started, the materials they used, the way they saw the art. I mean, saw the people standing in front of us, even though it was the same subject. Everyone had a different way of approaching, and seeing them in action, the judges and the other illustrators, was very inspiring, and I like that a lot.
Oh, that's great. So now, in terms of working with other people, what's your goal, or what's your objective that you see for your own future as an artist?
So right now I'm trying to get more experience as I can, to lead teams and stuff. Right now it's 11, but I want to expand that, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And get even more experience, because I know artists, I've been an artist, and I know how to help them, and I know how to make things look pretty, which is like a very required skill if you want to make anything that sells, that grabs people's attention, for any industry. Anyways, what I want to do is get more experience, get more networking done, meet new people, maybe even co-founders. But like, the reason I'm here and meeting all these artists, networking and all this stuff, is because I want to start my own business in the games industry. That's what I see for my future, and that's my end goal.
Well, that's great. It's interesting because your art it really communicates well. And one of the things that Elwin Hubbard, the person that created the contest, stated that art is the quality of communication. So that with what you're doing with your various environments and your various cultures, you're able to reach out and touch a lot more people with your art than someone who's maybe not as rounded in your experience with people.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so important to like understand more than your responsibilities, because you might be doing something not related to art, not related to anything, but you're gonna work with people. They're doing their own thing, and if you understand what they're doing, or if you have experience, even that's even better. You can be a better communicator. You can understand them. You can empathize. You like all the soft skills and all the like emotional connection and relationship building becomes much more meaningful, and you suddenly have much more access to everything around you, because you can form these relationships, because you can build these networks, and that's like very important.
Which is absolutely correct. So the awards gala, I mean, you look awesome there with your dress, and both your parents they were so proud. It was like, I look back afterwards at the various photos, everybody, and there's you with your family. It's just like proud papa. And then obviously he posted his post on social media there. But what was it like? Briefly describe what it was like for you being at the awards event.
It was very surreal, definitely. I mean, I was not used to anything like that. Like, never. We didn't have our own prom, like, considering the lack of experience we had and anything fancy. And like, consider this, we don't have our own prom because of COVID. We don't have anything, and it's Turkey. So, like, it is hard to find these resources, especially if you're not rich. So after all this, having this place, having this experience, and for your art, even, that was such an experience. It was unbelievable. Yeah, that was like from 0 to 100 real quick. So yeah, it went really fast because it was like absolutely incredible.
That's great. When you're called up onto the stage, as a winner to go up and speak, what was that like?
Oh, it was exciting. Like, I felt very grateful that I got to speak a few sentences about my situation, my experiences, because I know a lot of people are in these situations. I keep talking with these people. A lot of people reach out to me, especially in Turkey, because I've went through the same thing. So I was very grateful that I got the chance to speak about these stuff, and hopefully maybe someone saw it and they were inspired and they kept on working. So yeah, grateful.
That's good. And then what type of what's the value to you, or as an artist, to being recognized as a winner in this international art contest? What does that do in terms of a vote of confidence, if nothing else, as an artist?
Definitely a lot, because I feel like a lot of artists suffer from the fact that there are lots of photorealistic artists out there, and they do great. Lots of different kinds of artists, lots of professionals, and sometimes artists tend to compare their work to other artists. Maybe thinking, is this good enough? Should I, maybe draw more realistic? Like, what am I doing? Like, imposter syndrome. And something like this, like, boosts your confidence a lot, because that even, like, no matter what style you're drawing in or illustrating in, you have this to back you up.
Yeah.
So whatever someone may think or say, that doesn't change the fact that someone recognized your work and, like, it was something big.
That's great. It's funny because one of our judges, who now, Craig Elliott, who works at Disney, but he was the art director at Netflix for a while. When I had him on the podcast last year, he said he knew about the Illustrators and Writers of the Future contest when it first started coming out. He never entered because he never thought he was good enough. And
yeah, a lot of people.
You're talking about like the imposter syndrome. So he thought like, oh, I could never be that good. But yet here he is now. He runs all the animation at Netflix. Now he's moved over to Disney. A lot of what you see in animated movies is his creations. Those are his designs, and so that's one thing I'd like to address a little bit more, is just the imposter syndrome and what your take is on it, and why it's important not to succumb to that, but to still persist on your own dreams and don't be your own worst enemy. So talk a little bit about that if you can, please.
Okay, so the reason, as I might have mentioned, that I like to support people and, like, tell about my experiences is that I was lucky enough to have my parents believing in me and nothing else. So because that was the situation, I was able to understand that, like, even a single person, even if you have nothing, like, a single person believing in you can change a lot, because it's all about you. It's all, like, everything you can do. It's all within your skill set, or if it's not, you can grow that skill set. It's, like, possible. And there are many proofs of that happening with, people coming from low income families, people coming from nowhere. So essentially, that I'm here to tell people that they can, and I would love to be that one person that's believing in them, because I've seen it happening many times. It is possible, and anyone can do it if they have the passion, if they like it enough. As you said, with the, like, Disney executive and like the head of Netflix, the previous head of Netflix. He didn't even think that he was good enough for a contest that he's now being involved in more than just a contestant. So obviously everyone can do it, and especially the artists.
Good. Now, did you ever have to deal with someone saying like, don't do art, you need to be more responsible for your future, you need to be an engineer, you need to be a doctor, you need to do something that's going to better guarantee your future? Did you ever have to deal with that?
Oh, all the time. I mean, nearly everyone around me. I mean, I was lucky enough to have a supportive circle, but it is Turkey. Like, the majority of population don't know or care about arts, and the teachers and lots of people around me, like a lot of influential people around me. Like, I never got any respect for my art from my high school. Even when I told them that when I won the Illustrator award for this competition, they didn't care. Which is like very funny because they're a small high school in a random city of Turkey, and this is a great marketing opportunity for their high school. Some student is winning an international art award, but they didn't care. That's how much uneducated, or like how much, God, how less value to art there is in my country. So sometimes verbal, and sometimes because of these non-verbal or small things, I felt it a lot. There was this one teacher that told me like this exact sentence in Turkish: "I hope you never graduate." She told me this exact sentence because I was doing art, and because I was not supported, I had no sense of belonging to my school. I mean, I didn't have any respect for my school because they didn't respect me, and because of this fact, some of the teachers were even against me graduating high school.
Wow.
But yeah, that was very funny in a frustrating way. But I kept on pushing. It doesn't matter what they said. I'm here now. And I mean, there was my family supporting me again.
Yeah.
And yeah, there would be always those kind of people. And like, even if you were doing great, amazing, astonishing work, there's still going to be people like that. And it's sometimes not their fault because, they're coming from that kind of background. It doesn't really matter for the long run. Like, they're not going to be a part of your life for a long time anyways. So yeah, I just didn't care enough, and then I kept on going.
That's great, because I think that's one thing that's really, really important that people understand. Because I run into the same thing with people that are aspiring writers as well. That you got someone that will say, don't give up your day job. Why would you want to do something where you don't have a guaranteed, you're going to get your, this, that, and the other thing with a regular job? Don't do that. But the people that excel and whatnot, like yourself right now, is like, you can't envision a life without your art.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. A lot of people need this support in their lives because they do amazing work, and sometimes it goes unrecognized because some other people around them are telling them not to quit their day job, which is very wrong. It is absolutely incorrect that you cannot make a living with your passion, and it is again incorrect that if you like art, you can do a lot of things related to art and like as an artist, but you don't have to work as a freelance broke artist everyone thinks you are. Yeah.
So for your future then, because obviously you're going to USC, and then you've got this amazing opportunity that you've taken advantage of working on this team. As obviously you've got some serious skill that they were able to take you straight away, and now you're already a supervisor in this program that's mostly contains seniors. So I mean, that's quite a testament to you and your abilities. So do you see yourself being able to continuing on with your art, like your illustration, your painting, creating games, like being diverse across the arts, as well as being a manager of your own company? Do you envision yourself all types of art continuing, or do you want to get specialized right away?
I like Okay, so right now I work in very different fields in terms of the arts. I don't work as a game artist because I'm more interested in the art production side, but I can do that whenever I want, and I can get involved with projects as an artist whenever I want to. But because of my own decision, I'm more interested in the management side of things because, after all these experiences and after working as an artist myself, it is like, it is honestly such a great feeling to give the other artists the opportunity to make things look beautiful because I know they can and I know how to organize them. But like if I wasn't interested in the management side, I have gotten many offers to work as an artist for the projects, and like I just reject them because I'm more interested in the management side. But like that's very possible if anyone wants to do that. But I'm like definitely interested in art management or creative management.
So, so just to define that a bit better, so that people listening to this can know what you mean when you say art management. So, what exactly is art management as compared to the creative side?
Okay, so it could mean different things in different industries. I'm gonna speak for the game industry for because I'm in that field and I've not been in the other field, so I'm not sure about those. And depending on the scale of the company, you might be a lot or very little involved in the creative process. If it's a very large company and you're working as an art manager, like creative director, or like art producer, you are mostly organizing tasks and organizing the art team to make sure that they make the game, make the visuals look amazing. But if it's like on the smaller scale or the smaller side of the scale, you can be more involved in the creative process, even deciding for how the game visuals should look or like deciding for the tasks yourself. And a lot of different positions come out of art production, art direction, art leads, creative direction. All these stuff are management stuff, but like involved in the arts somehow. And the level of creative input can depend on where you're working. Yeah, right now I get to have a lot of creative input in my projects. I get to do concept art, and if I want to, I can do modeling and contribute to that stuff as well. But yeah, it depends on where you're working.
Yeah. So, I guess with respect to other aspiring artists, because you're like the leader of the pack with what you're doing here. What advice do you have now for other aspiring artists of what you had to go through, like what kept you inspired, like deep down inside, that they can then use as well to keep themselves going and achieving their dreams?
I would say like live the life to the fullest with your passions as much as you can, because for me I found this one memory, one experience that just stayed with me for my whole journey. And whenever something was hard, whenever I wanted to give up, whenever I had a big obstacle, I could go back to that memory, I could go back to the experience and say, well, this is my reason. You just have to find yourself a reason, so that because life will be hard, you're gonna fail a lot, like, but you have to get up every single time. You have to find a reason to keep getting more opportunities, to keep making opportunities, to keep going.
I get it. So, and if you don't mind sharing, what was that reason for you? What was that?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be something big. With me, it was like one night. It was 5 a.m. in the morning, and I was playing Rainbow Six Siege with my friends on the PlayStation 4. I had this one room that's very small, that there's no lights, no windows, and I have a TV and my console. Like it was like a man cave. I was in that man cave playing Rainbow Six Siege with my friends at 5 a.m., sleep deprived. And for that moment, we were in custom game mode. For that moment, the game had a bug which looked ridiculous. And because we were all sleep deprived and it was 5 a.m. and a bunch of gaming people, that seemed ridiculously funny to us. And I remember laughing for like at least 30 minutes until my stomach started hurting. And at that moment, I thought, I don't want to leave this experience. I don't want to ever stop playing games in my entire life. I want to keep playing games. I want to keep having these experiences that I love to have, even though it was 5 in the morning. And then, being a game designer was a way to make that happen, because to make games, you have to play games. And that's what I'm doing.
Well, that's great. So that's what keeps you going, no matter what, with any difficulties or humps that are really hard to overcome.
Yeah.
That's great. So I guess then for the aspiring artist or illustrator, anything that, again, we'll go back to this a bit then on just the whole way that you went ahead and overrode all the obstacles and barriers, because that's something that, especially here in the United States, there's a tendency to think that things are owed to one. It's and that's a definite liability, because it's just, at some point they realize, if you're going to get something, you need to work for it and get it. So again, let's go over a little bit about your whole, how you capture each step of the way, how you owned it and overcame it, and then take your next level up, like your mindset.
Okay, so here, because United States, in terms of welfare and people's lives, and like what they can afford, their opportunities, because of the country, essentially, because it's so much better than most places, it is somewhat understandable that people don't really realize what's actually going on outside of the States and what people do not have. But actually, you're not owed anything. Like, for example, public schools, I've seen many people complaining about how they didn't have a 3D modeling class, and I'm like, what do you mean? We didn't have any electives. We didn't get to choose anything. Like the smallest things they have. And like, even if you don't have any electives, let's say you don't have anything, let's say your school is the worst of the worst, because it's the United States, you can find an art club, an art course, like a studio somewhere nearby. I didn't have none of that in my city, like nothing, absolutely nothing. And that's okay. That's how they were raised. That's what they've seen. But at some point, it's important to realize that if you don't have something you want, you go get it. And if it's unfair, then that's how it is, because life is unfair, and it's going to keep being unfair. Like, some people are privileged, some people are not. That doesn't change the fact that you can get whatever you want with enough work. And in my case, I looked up a lot of different art studios in my city, which turned out to be not so art studios, and like none of them worked. So I went to the internet and I contacted a lot of people. I did my research. I found all the summer programs I could apply to that could give me scholarships. And then I applied to those things. I researched how to get those scholarships. I researched how to be a good candidate, because it's all on the internet. It's all there. Like, I didn't have the physical resources, but I still had internet, which I'm sure a lot of people here also have. Yeah. So I went to those I went to those summer camps, for example, with Ringling. It was an art pre-college program. My focus was in game art and game design in there too. And I won a scholarship. It was a group of 200 people, and they gave a scholarship to 3 people, if I remember correctly. And with that scholarship, I essentially went there for free. And I had set myself a goal. If I could get that scholarship, I was gonna use the money I saved to buy an iPad. And after I won, I then allowed myself to buy an iPad with the money I saved, not the money my parents gave me. And then after that, I got more into digital art and stuff. So it was just, one step at a time. You start with the internet, you start with whatever you have. If whatever you have is not enough, you find more online resources, because at this point with COVID, it made it so much easier to access online resources. It made a lot of things online, and you can get experience, you can get working experience as a remote artist now, more than you could previously. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I think it's so true, that wanting to have something, having to have before you can actually do your art. It's like, you're living testament to the fact that it's the desire, despite all obstacles and barriers, to overcome them, to be able to reach your goals and your dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe other people can do it too. So that's why I like producing with the artists, especially, because I know they can do it. And if they need support, I can support them.
Yeah. I would love to invite you back this year at the Rise of Future event, at the workshop week, to speak to the winners, just from your own perspective, because it's so amazing. And we've got winners from 8 countries this year. So this is the most we've had. So it's really good. It's continuing to grow. And I know that as a result of this podcast, when this goes live, it's going to result in that many more people realizing that they don't need to buy into all the, the can't be done, the things that, to give up your hopes and to dash your dreams, because you're living proof in all your glorious red color there that that it really can be done. But yeah, I think it'd be great for you to be able to, not only speaking now to aspiring artists on this podcast, but also to speak to them, to the winners, that this can be done. And obviously I want to introduce you to more of the judges too.
I would love that.
Because you are, you really are amazing. I'm really glad that we've had this opportunity to talk. So we've got about another less than 10 minutes here. So any particular messages that you wanted to relay yourself to the, I guess, to aspiring artists or people that are even thinking about wanting to have a dream about being an artist?
Well, for this whole time I've been talking to you, but I would want to use this chance to talk to the artists, like specifically artists. Like I can say that I believe in you. Like I personally believe in you, even if I haven't seen your work yet. Because even if I haven't seen your work, and even if you think or actually are a very beginner and your skill level is very low, I've seen many artists going from 0 to 100 real quick because they were so passionate. And like even in a span of 2 years, I've seen artists like develop incredibly. Like it was just stick figures to actually realistic paintings in a span of 2 years. And like I've seen this happen many times. Absolutely, honestly, I can say that I believe in you and I would be supporting you if you want to reach out to me. I'm sure my contact information for my social media accounts would be shared here, hopefully. So yeah, you can reach out. I would love to talk and support you.
That's amazing. So I guess then the last thing is, do you see yourself ever migrating back to Turkey, or now that you're here in the States that you're going to stay here and just create and continue to expand here in the United States?
Well, two things. First of all, the opportunities I have are enormous. Like compared to Turkey, it is beyond anything I could get there. And if I want to help anyone in Turkey, the best thing I can do is expand here and then extend help over there. So I'm definitely going to stay here. Also, as a woman, it is easier to live here, I have to say.
No doubt. That makes sense that you can actually probably do more for artists in Turkey from a stable place here in the United States and be able to reach out to them. You're bilingual, correct?
Yeah.
So quite possibly English is your second language rather than your first language.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I lived in Turkey ever since I was 1. So yeah.
So is there anything you'd like to say in Turkish to the artist? Because that'll be part of this as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Ben size inanıyorum ve kesinlikle yapabilirsiniz. Ve bana Instagram'dan da ve hani herhangi bir Türk kaynaktan ulaşabilirsiniz. Türkçe benim ilk şeyim, ilk dilim ve ben orada yaşadım tüm hayatım boyunca. Ben size inanıyorum. And that's it.
Okay, good. Well, this has been great speaking with you, and I've said I'm just so happy we did this interview. You're a true inspiration, and
I'm glad to hear.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to wrap up this interview. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
For those of you wishing to reach out to Max, you can find her at irmakcav.com. That's irmakcavun.com, or you can email her at irmakcav@gmail.com. That's irmakcav@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening. Subscribe to the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We've also been syndicated on the United Public Radio Network, where you can find these podcasts as well. Writers and Illustrators of the Future are contests created by L. Ron Hubbard to provide a means for the aspiring writer and artist to be seen and acknowledged. It is free to enter and open to amateur short story writers and artists of science fiction or fantasy. Again, thank you very much, Max.
Good to be here.
Baby, this is do or die. Feel it in my veins tonight. Emotional suicide. You know it's a eye for eye. I didn't wanna walk the plank. No, but the Mariona, it came like the thunder. I was on my way to going under. Swimming in the pain, I was covered in a tidal wave. But I'm a fighter. Try to take me down, I'm going higher. Baby, you night. Maybe when it's still dark, you know it's an eye for eye. Maybe when it's real in the dead of night. Dead of night. You can save your alibi. I already know you lied. Oh no, no, don't even try. Watch the flame in me ignite. You didn't wanna walk the plank. But then ready or not it came. Baby, it was dark, it was hard to see. And that's when the spark lit inside of me. Oh, I was lost in reverie. One day you will see what you made of me, what's inside of me. One day you will see I found my inner peace. You are release in the dead of night. In the dead of night.
Sometimes it's cut so much deeper than they see. You rather cover up, I'd rather let them be. So I got Peanut butter and chocolate too. You know how I do, that's what I wake up to. My music puffs and spice this rhyme. The peanut butter chocolate combination's on time. Reese's Puffs, Reese's Puffs, Reese's Puffs, Reese's Puffs, Reese's Puffs, Reese's Peanut butter, just